Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, kind of unusual solution to one of the biggest challenges humanity is facing: the future of our food. So here's the core problem, and it is massive. How are we going to produce healthy, sustainable food for a population that's heading towards 10 billion people? All while we're dealing with the huge uncertainties of climate change. The old ways of doing things, they're really being pushed to their absolute limits. Okay, so let's get right into it. To really get why we need a new solution, we have to first take a hard look at the true cost of our current food system. And the research on this is, well, pretty crystal clear. Our current ways of producing meat and dairy are having some major negative impacts on the environment. We're talking about significant greenhouse gas emissions, huge demands on land, and a really high use of the planet's water. It's a model that's just getting harder and harder to justify. So, if the old way isn't going to cut it, what's the alternative? Well, the answer might just surprise you. It's small, it's super efficient, and yeah, it has 6 legs. Now, what's so interesting here is when you put them side by side. I mean, look at the numbers. Insect farming is just way more efficient with our planet's resources. For instance, the water it takes to produce a gram of protein from mealworms is 5 times less than what it takes for beef. That is a massive difference. And here's where their superpower really shines. Insects can eat stuff that humans and our traditional livestock can't. Things like organic waste from making our food. They are basically nature's ultimate upcyclers. They take these low-value materials that we just throw away and turn them into incredibly valuable, high-quality nutrients. Okay, so they're good for the planet, we get that. But are they actually good for you? Are they nutritious? Let's jump into the science and see how these little critters really stack up. This table is really telling, isn't it? If you look at it on a dry matter basis, which is just how scientists make a fair apples-to-apples comparison, insects are absolutely packed with protein. Just look at the house cricket. It's clocking in as high as 72% protein. That's often on par with, or even higher than, soybean meal, which is a huge staple in animal feed across the globe. But listen, it's not just about how much protein there is. The real measure of a protein's quality comes down to its building blocks. These are called essential amino acids, or EAAs, and our bodies have to get them from the food we eat. And as you can see right here, the profile of those essential amino acids in insects like the mealworm and the black soldier fly is just excellent. It compares super well to high-quality plant proteins like soy, which means insects are a complete protein source, perfect for growth and health. All right, so maybe you're not quite ready to put a cricket on your dinner plate just yet, but insects are already starting to enter our food chain in a big but kind of indirect way. Let's look at the research. For animals like chickens and pigs, the ones with simple stomachs, insects are turning out to be a fantastic replacement for their usual feed. Studies are showing that when you swap in insect meal, there are no negative effects on their growth. And in some cases, it can even help them digest their food better. And this isn't just about animals on land. In fact, one of the biggest opportunities here is in aquaculture. Fish farming. Right now, a lot of farmed fish eat something called fish meal, which is made from smaller, wild-caught fish. This puts a ton of pressure on our ocean ecosystems. Insect meal could replace that fish meal, which would create a much, much more sustainable way to farm the fish we all eat. So if insects are so great for the environment, so great for animal feed, why aren't they just everywhere? Let's get into the challenges that still need to be tackled. So the biggest hurdle, especially in Western cultures, it really just comes down to the ick factor. It's a really deep-seated cultural bias. I mean, foods that we don't normally eat are often seen as weird or gross, and for a lot of people, insects are pretty much at the top of that list. So, how do you get over that? Well, the industry's main strategy right now is to make the insects invisible. Instead of trying to get you to eat a whole bug, they're focusing on insect-based ingredients. So think protein powders, flour for baking, or as an additive in things like protein bars and burgers. It just makes the whole idea a lot easier to swallow. But beyond what people think, there are some very real safety and logistical challenges we have to manage. You've got microbial risks from bacteria in the insect's gut, an allergenic risk for people with shellfish allergies, and there's a chemical risk if the insects pick up heavy metals from what they eat. And then on top of all that, we need clear, consistent rules for how to farm and sell them. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Let's try and bring it all together. So, on one hand, the promise here is just immense. We're talking about a sustainable, nutrient packed protein source that we can literally grow on our garbage, which would drastically cut down our environmental footprint. But on the other hand, the road ahead means we have to tackle some pretty big cultural, economic, and scientific hurdles before insects can really become mainstream. At the end of the day, the journey for insects to go from pest to protein really depends on innovation, on having solid safety standards, and maybe most important of all, a fundamental shift in how we all think about the food on our plates. It's a complex puzzle, for sure, but it could hold one of the keys to feeding our future.